mixture of makes and winners for you. 20 laps, 3.780 kilometres around, race distance 75.600 kilometres, and this should be a beauty. Who do you like off the start?
Well, I don't think we have to ask who's going to go off to start, do we, Mark? It's a funny-looking red, white, and blue car there on the right. I think it's got an excellent chance.
Okay, wait for green. Watch the power go down as the tourists now get underway in Adelaide, and as predicted, the Skyline off the line very quick at four-wheel power, really getting down. Seaton makes a good start too. The Holdens are there. Seaton up into second place with a great start for him. Win Percy well positioned, and I can see one of the mobile Holdens really mustering their way in, watching the field come through now. Oh, but Seaton, great start.
Done extremely well. He got powered down very fast, and with the turbo into top gear, he's done nicely. He's actually harassing Jimmy there on some of these sharp left-right swingers. They're all really jockeying for position until they can get onto the straight.
Win Percy doing a great job in third place too.
Yeah, he just looked at a couple of spots there to nail Glenn, but Glenn covered his tracks pretty well.
Jimmy Richards, winner of Bathurst this year, the Australian Touring Car Champion, and is very, very potent Nissan out in front at the moment, but Seaton hanging on well. So is Win Percy. And now we can see the two Brock cars of Perkins and Peter Brock. They're coming into play too, just trying to stay in touch. A little bimmer, there it is, of Longhurst. Alan Jones flashing through with the Johnson Sierras hanging on there. But the big action up in front, Jimmy Richards coming down the main straight now. Watch Win Percy. He's jockeying for position. Glenn Seaton, but the power of the Nissan at the moment in command.
Win Percy's in good shape if he can. Ooh, look at that. Jim actually holding them up there in that tight right-hander off the main straight.
What's the Nissan like on tyres around here? Have you had much feedback, Mark? Because, I mean, you haven't had much time to run the car.
No, we really haven't, Darryl, but the circuit is hard on tyres, but the car being four-wheel drive is probably better than most, so I think it'll be okay.
Well, they're making a gap here now. Remember, the Holdens will start that action again from the helicopter. Percy getting right on the back of Jimmy Richards. Remember, the Holdens will start to run out of brakes after maybe half distance of the race, particularly at the end of the long straight. That's going to be difficult for them. So Percy doing a great job hanging on now. Seaton is losing touch a little.
Just a little bit, Darryl, but not that badly. He's had a bit of a scrape there. You can see the flare coming off his right front tire, but hopefully no damage to the tire.
When Percy at the moment goes up and looks a break in and puts the big hole up behind Jimmy Richards. All over him at the moment saying, come on, boy, let's have a race. The Holdens suited here. They tend to go very, very well when they race round the streets of Adelaide. Nothing in this. Jimmy Richards, all the skills, all the cool and calm. You can say, well, climb all over the back of me, but you've got to get round me.
You've got to get around me, that's for sure. And around these tight right-handers, that's going to be difficult. But the Holden has got power and plenty of it in a straight line. If Win Percy can just hang on to the tail of Jimmy Richards there coming onto the main straight, he might just be able to draft him down under brakes, but not looking too good at this stage.
You'd think there Glenn got a very good run over the back straight, and there's probably not a lot of difference between the three top cars there now down the straight. Glenn's looking pretty good for the braking area now and Win.
Mark, where can the Holden make any ground on Jim Richards and the Nissan? Where, if anywhere on the circuit, can he make up the time?
Well, I think in the early laps, Darryl, they've got a very big tyre, and the tyres being fresh on the faster corners, they're probably no disadvantage on a four-wheel drive car at all. And as you can see now, Win in the fast sections is going very, very well.
The Sierra's a handful round here as well?
Their tyres a little bit narrower, Darryl. They will be, I would think, Glenn being in the position he's in. He said, I can't match Win just at the moment. I'll let him go. But sitting in third spot in this company is very, very respectable. And Glenn knows his way around here, and he also knows how to nurse a car.
So there he is, Glenn Seaton in the blue car. You can see him now closing up at the end of straight on brake. So he made a lot of ground up there. Jimmy Richards still letting Win Percy in the big Holden, the big V8 Holden. The fans at Bathurst love to hear. They love to hear him here. It's as part of Australian motor racing, no doubt about that. But the best car in Australian motor racing at the moment, the Nissan, the red, white and blue Nissan. Jimmy Richards at the helm, the Australian Drivers' Champion, winner of Bathurst, and at the moment leading here. But Win Percy doing a great job. Seaton gets out of shape too. The two Mobil cars, they're starting to come into contention too. But remember the brake problem at half distance is going to be a big problem here for these Holdens.
Yes, it is a long straight. People don't perhaps get the real impression of how far it is down that Brabham straight, and certainly after 20 laps around here, those stoppers are going to be asked to do their job. But I noticed, Mark, Jim is being quite conservative through the corners. Wynn is actually charging him on all those tight corners and actually staying in touch nicely. But I suspect Jim is just nursing his tires a little bit.
I think he's driving the car very, very straight, Alan, so that's probably why you can see him doing that. I think the yellow BMW of Tony Longhurst is still going to be a dark horse.
Yes, Alan Jones said this morning that it's a very good car on this circuit for brakes, but he said they won't even come into contention for 8 or 9 laps of the event. They've got a bit of ground to make up, he said, and if you can keep the car nice and cool, keep it nice and settled on the rubber, they'll come into play about halfway along. And that's been the story right throughout the season, Mark, hasn't it? The little bimmer starts a little slow and all of a sudden working its way through the pack.
Yes, it's tortured us all year, Darryl. We always thought by half race distance we've got a big enough gap to beat them, and then all of a sudden you start to see this little yellow BMW become bigger in the mirror.
It's not always a BMW that you have to worry about. If there's anything behind you, Mark, you start getting a little frustrated, and certainly Jim Richards will be quite aware that he's got a big Holden in his mirror at the moment.
Certainly has, but you can see Tony Longhurst in the yellow BMW just in behind the pack where we get a longer shot, and he is starting to come into play now. He's getting into touch with him. Alan Jones, of course, started back in 9th, so he's back a little bit. He's in 7th place at the moment, Tony Longhurst. You can see the yellow car there, so he's not that far out of reach. Anybody has a problem here, if there's a bit of push and shove, he'll be there. There he comes now, in behind one of the Johnson cars. Is it Dick Johnson?
Yes, it was Dick, yes.
So 7th position at the moment, and doing a pretty good job. So he's starting to make up the distance. That's the car we're talking about, Tony Longhurst. It's been a fabulous performer right throughout the year. Remember, this car is, much underpowered compared to the opposition, but it's a lot lighter. The power to weight ratio is there. It sits so well. It doesn't have the power to get out of the corners at places like Bathurst and run up the hill, but it's a little bit better suited around the streets of Adelaide.
It certainly loves it. It's got a very, very nice weight, Darryl, sitting around the 960 kilogram mark against 1,400 odd with the car in the lead. The Commodore is also just on 1,300 kilograms, maybe a little bit under. A lot of weight to be stopping in a hurry, but the BMW, it can just march on slowly but surely, but before we know it, it's going to be on top of these fellas, and it already is.
Okay, you're looking at the big tourers running around the streets of Adelaide. Back shortly. Stay with us. Australia, this Australian Grand Prix meeting, Jimmy Richards, Wynn Percy, Seaton, Perkins, Brock, and we believe Longhurst at the moment has just knocked off Johnson for the top 6 spot. There he is, the little BMW we talked about starting to make his way through the field. Well, he's taken Dick Johnson, so to move up a place there. And the other interesting part is that Larry Perkins is leading the Peter Brock car. That's car 11, Mobil car leading car 05 at the moment. So Larry is having a good drive, and he normally does go pretty well here.
Yeah, LP's very good anywhere, I think, Darryl, and around here he's probably set his car up a little bit different to Peter, and this weekend he's going very well. I'm sure Peter will take a bit of beating, but
Wynn Percy at the moment is holding on to Jimmy Richards' Nissan pretty well under brakes. Does that surprise you?
No, the Holdens were stopping extremely well at Bathurst, Darryl, and he's done it again here. In fact, he's actually really harassing Jim through most of these right-handers and staying in touch very nicely. And in fact, if there was the slightest possibility, and I know this never happens, Mark, but if there was the slightest possibility that Nissan could go on to 5 cylinders, or what, 24 after the 25? I forget how many cylinders it's got. There's so many of them under the bonnet.
Yeah, thanks for that, Alan. Oh, look, we've got Richo in car now.
Yeah, I've got to say this, though. I think the public have been getting a little tired this year of hearing people say that the Nissan is a real race car and the rest are family hacks that are modified. I mean, let's not get into all the politics of it, but Nissan were given a car. They've done their job with it. They've won the series. It happened when Sierras dominated, when Holdens were dominating, and I must get really sick and tired of hearing that sort of language, because when you see this sort of racing with the old Holden V8 hassling along, I think it's fantastic.
No, I don't think there's any too much pitching, really, Daryl. Nissan have done a fantastic job. They've got a great team. Mark knows only too hard how hard they work, and it's not for me to give them any more credits than they've already got. But suffices to say there's always a lead somewhere, and look what we got a new one now.
And look at this. Win Percy slams the Holden at the end of the straight, right up on the inside line, and finally gets Jimmy Richards. So the big run of the V8 now, here in the streets of Adelaide, comes alive, and the crowd will love this one. The V8 out in front at the moment. Can he hold him up now? This will be interesting. Jimmy Richards, his point of view from the Nissan now, looking at the rear end of Win Percy's Holden. Some are saying it's his last race in Australia before heading back and working with Tom Walkinshaw and the Jaguar projects back in England. But Win loves it here. He'd love to stay. So it'll be interesting. We're only on lap 8, so there's plenty of time to go as Jimmy Richards looks at the Holden blasting its way along pit straight.
Well, it certainly did blast, Daryl. That's quite a jump there. Just looking through the window here, I'd have to say at least 4 or 5 car lengths, and he seems to be accelerating each time he puts his foot down.
Won't phase Jimmy too much. He's all right in these situations.